On the witness stand, an investigator said after Roof's confession, he told the then 21-year-old that his plan to start a race war did not work and the people of Charleston were coming together. His last words to Roof, "You failed." Gabe Gutierrez, NBC News.
Thank you for that. Joining us now, Nina Turner, former Ohio State Senator and an MSNBC political analyst. Tough story, Nina, that this country has had to watch develop so far. The questions I might ask when we see that happening, and we also understand, based on what's been reported from the Southern Poverty Law Center, as well as the anecdotes that have been circulating, certainly within many circles in America after the election, is where we're at and where we're going. Because when we look at pictures like this, it is absolutely horrifying to even remember that particular incident.
It is, Richard. It's gut-wrenching. It's chilling. You know, I'm trying to hold back the tears now just listening to how and watching.
Yeah.
Dylann Roof was cold-blooded. It was calculated, and he didn't regret it at all. It was deliberate. And the fact that a young man, you know, someone as young as he is, really believed that it is okay to try to start a race war, that it was okay to walk into a church. It's never okay just to gun innocent people down for any reason, but to go to the place of worship and be welcomed into that place, and then to shoot 9 people and just have such a cavalier attitude about it. It's chilling in every way. And you know, Richard, it kind of reminds me of the 1915 when Birth of a Nation, you know, Griffith's Birth of a Nation really depicted a lot of things that Dylann Roof was saying about blacks and that how many they kill. Most crimes, most violent crimes are interracial. So he doesn't even have all his facts right. But that incident has set this country back in so many ways. And you know what? The judge was right. He didn't get what he was looking for, but we do see seeds and remnants of the racism and hate that is infected, ingested in the DNA of this country, and we have to address that, and that's bigger than Dylann Roof.
There is more to be done. I want to talk to you about another high-profile criminal case because you have been talking about it yourself. Monday, the judge declared a mistrial in the case of Michael Slager, the white South Carolina cop who shot and killed a black civilian, Walter Scott, during a traffic stop last year. I want to show, first of all, what the jury foreman explained, and then I'll get your reaction here.
When I first got inside the courtroom, you know, I came in with a very open mind. You know, so oftentimes I think due to my my color and I was going to go and do X, Y, and Z, and that's not what I was going in there to do. I went in there and I looked at all the evidence that was presented to me from the defense and from the prosecutor, and then when we got inside, I made a judgment based on factual information, not my opinion, not my emotions.
Nina, what's your thought here? Tough position for him. He's saying he did it for a reason, that he did it to separate race from justice, and at least that's what he's trying to do. Do you agree with that approach, that he is saying the way he addressed this issue?
Well, I certainly don't want to second guess him. He and his colleagues sat on that jury. They heard evidence that many of us are not privy to. But I will tell you the perception and the court of public opinion, seeing the officer shoot Walter Scott in the back, it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense, you know, and don't let our lying eyes, don't believe your lying eyes, is kind of what happened during this case. So it is very unfortunate, not just for that family, but also for society, and also for how do we rebuild the trust and accountability and transparency that is necessary for law enforcement officers to do their jobs. There is no doubt that camera is not lying, that Walter Scott was shot in the back, Richard, and yet we have a mistrial in this case. It just kind of defies not only logic, it defies the emotions that are being whipped up, the maelstrom of emotions that people are feeling over this kind of case and cases like this in this country.
Nina, you said with regard to emotions, you actually felt numb all over. You said it's the ton of bricks one feels on their heart and head, knowing we have been here before. That's what you tweeted when you had heard about this. Can you tell us a little bit more about what's going through your mind?
Yeah, Rich, I mean, in this country, the history and legacy of racism and discrimination, the fact that I think, you know, the urban poet Ice Cube said it best, our skin is our sin. The whole notion that African Americans somehow are more criminal than anybody else. The whole notion that black on black crime, which is really a false equivalency, most violent crimes. And nobody likes violence. African Americans are not standing up saying bring more violence to our country or to our communities. You know, I served as a Cleveland City Councilwoman, and I walked the streets with community members who really have, especially my elders, who have a deep-seated respect for law enforcement, but at the same time are asking for justice and accountability. And in this country, African Americans, for the most part, and I'm talking about implicit biases that not just law enforcement hold, but that many people in this country hold when it comes to African Americans and other people of color, that the shadow of skin is still there. And so there was no surprise. Nobody was surprised, primarily in the African American community, that this police officer got away with it, Richard. We have to do something about it. So yes, it was a ton of bricks, and it still is heavy on our hearts and our minds. What do black people have to do in this country to prove that we are equal to anybody else in this country, that we love like anybody else in this country, that we want justice like anybody else in this country? How many mothers have to lose their sons? And I'm not just talking, and daughters, and I'm not just talking about police brutality here, but I'm talking about a deep, abiding respect for African Americans and their contributions to this country. We would not be America today without African Americans. And so we just, everybody, conscious-minded people are really tired of this, Louis, and it's just hard. The man, Walter Scott, was shot in the back. I mean, really.
When you think about hope in 2017, 2013, 14, and 15, and 16 were tough years on this topic. Nina, quickly, what do you hope will change in 2017? What are you looking for in terms of leadership about how you can start to remove some of these bricks?
That we have to come together, and first of all, we have to speak truth. We have to confess our sins, first of all, that racism and discrimination is in the DNA of America, and that all of us have an obligation to deconstruct our construction and really get down to really understanding somebody else's experience and treating everybody as equals. But that is a conversation that is America's burden. Leaders, I think, carry a heavier burden, but it's everybody's burden. From the corner store to the White House, we all carry that burden of making sure that we come together and get a deeper understanding, but first confessing that racism and discrimination exist.
Nina Turner from the great city of Cleveland, thank you for stopping by, Nina. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Richard.
All right.